Welcome to the Better Business, Better Life podcast. Terry DuPont is the founder of DuPont Advisory Group, a group dedicated to providing comprehensive services to successful business owners, medical, and other professionals. Terry has top-of-the-table status in the prestigious International $1 Million Roundtable, placing him among the top 0.1% of all professional financial advisors in the world. Terry's philosophy is, I've learned that I grow and prosper more by focusing on the success of others, rather than fretting over my own. Terry is a certified financial professional with the Institute of Financial Wellness, an advisor for the Power of Zero Taxes in Retirement, chartered retirement plans specialist, certified wealth preservation planner, and certified philanthropic developer. On the podcast, Terry brings together experts in their field who have succeeded in building their business to share their secrets with you. And now, here's your host, Terry DuPont.
Because it's terrible if I forgot to do that. Did you see something?
Real quick, too, my background, is that okay if those are my boards? I'm always thinking, I'm doing different thoughts. Can you read
Oh, that's
that?
perfect. It shows you're busy.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I'm busy thinking.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm busy creating, yes.
Okay. So I'll get her started here, and then I'll start it. I'll ask you some questions, and you just answer them the way you feel best, how you're most comfortable. When we get through it, by the way, these things usually last about 30 minutes. I've had some go 20, some go 40. It's okay. All right. Whatever it takes there. So don't feel rushed. And we'll jump into it here. So if you're ready, I'll go ahead and start.
And don't be afraid to cut me off, because I get to tend to be on tangents, and I get talking. When I get passionate about something, I start talking too long.
Well, I usually find a very subtle way to do it if I need to.
Yep, it's good. Get me on to the next thing. So, yeah.
So welcome everyone. Start over. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Better Business, Better Life, Building on Your Success. And I'm your host, Terry DuPont. This week, ladies and gentlemen, we have Scott Malcolm. Scott is a real estate broker in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he has some good information to share with us. So, Scott, welcome to the show. Glad to have you, and happy Friday to you.
I appreciate it, Terry. It's good to be here.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. So tell Scott, if you could you tell us our audience a little more about you and why you got started in your real estate career, if you could.
I think I came out of college and started undergrad school and started to trying to look for something I had a passion about. And I had several different jobs, went back to grad school for architecture. I went through 3 years of architecture school, worked for an architect for about a year and a half. And then I think I was dissatisfied, not with the creation of that, but just the pay scale, the length of time to get anywhere. Found myself into construction, commercial contracting, as doing drafting and looking for state permits and doing all the things I do for companies to get a building built. And then somewhere along the line that slowed down, and they were talking about going into unemployment. And I thought, I've got grad under me, I got undergrad, unemployment. So I always thought real estate was a great interest of mine. So I found myself taking the course and then interviewing companies. And first year I sold real estate, I made a little bit more money than I ever made. And it was fun, it was enjoyable. And I thought I could learn this skill pretty quickly with my background in construction and architecture. And so that's what led me into selling real estate. Now I'm 31 years in it. So
well, that was going to be my next question. So you beat me to it. Great segue, by the way. So what do you enjoy most, and what do you enjoy the least about the real estate business? Okay, both sides.
I think the most enjoyable aspect of real estate is, I've said it to many people when I was managing offices, that we don't sell pens, we don't sell lamps, we don't sell furniture, we sell homes. It's a big deal. Homes are people. That's where you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to raise families. It's really personal. It can be for a lot of people. A home we're part of the shelter business. I mean, it's one of the main things that you have to have, a shelter. So it's really fulfilling to have enough experience to walk people through the buying process, the selling process, or the construction of a brand new home, it just feels good laying in bed at night, knowing that I really took care of these people. I knew how to do it. I can walk you down that path and stay off the cliffs and make it smooth so it seems easy for you. So that's the fulfilling part. I think the worst part of the business is something that I mentioned earlier when we were talking a minute ago, that realtors tend to work with a scarcity mentality. They tend to work every night and every weekend because they're trying to, say yes to the client, and I get it. And that's the worst part, is just the hours that are spent trying to get in a position to help people.
Mhm.
When you're an entrepreneur and you work for yourself, your biggest issue is needing work. You need clients. You need somebody to help, wants to buy a home, wants to sell a home. And so you make yourself available almost 7/24 to get that to happen in the beginning of your career. I can remember working 92-hour weeks, 94-hour weeks for 4 or 5 years, and then realizing this is not going to work forever. I can't keep this pace up for decades. So,
Mhm.
but that's the worst part, is just the amount of times and effort, energy you put into getting this thing to get up and on its feet and get running. So,
Okay. What would you say, Scott, that your biggest challenge has been? The biggest challenge you've faced?
well, within my career, the biggest, I suppose, the challenge for every agent is to try to control your business, like we talked about too, is how do you control this flow of work? Once you get it going, how do you control it? That's the challenge. The challenge is how do I get a handle on this so I'm not working every night, every weekend? I like what I do, it's fulfilling, but I don't like the hours that I'm putting in to try to get this to happen. So that the challenge is that, and I stumbled into, well, I pursued trying to figure out how can I control this. And
Mhm.
so that's the biggest challenge, is how do you control your life, your business, so you can get a control of your life.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Could you expound a little bit possibly on what you've done to try and mitigate that challenge?
sure. I think we all work by referrals trickle into your life. Every business has referrals from everybody. I mean, whatever industry you're in, you're going to get somebody that likes what you did, and they're going to refer you to somebody they know and they trust. So I know I noticed that when I had somebody referred me, there was already trust there. There was already a little bit of trust there, and it was easier to work with them. They were more believing in when you said, "Hey, here's some options to look at." They would look at those options, versus working off the street. I say working off the street, which is, call comes in off sign and they want to see it in 10 minutes. Large majority of the agents will run out and show that house in 10 minutes. They'll drop what they've got going on. The classic is, my wife and I had dinner scheduled for 2 weeks now at 7 o'clock on Friday night with other couples, and you get a call on one of your listings and it's a $500,000 home and the check's 15 grand for a commission check, and they want to see that house 7:30 on Friday night. And the bulk of agents will say, honey, I'm sorry, I got an opportunity here, I'm going to have to take it. And we've learned to not do that. We've learned to say, hey, there's other options, we can look at this house. But anyways, that whole concept is learning to work by referral. And everybody says they do,
Yeah.
and everybody gets referrals.
But do
But
they
how do you proactively go out and create that entire process to get these referrals to come? And that's not even the ticket. And that's the start of how you control, is you get yourself off the street arena and you play only in the referral arena. And that takes years to transition that over. But once you're over in this arena where you're working by private recommendations only, then the next ticket is to have consultations.
Mhm.
I've got a couple of friends who are attorneys, and you can't call up an attorney on the phone and get them on the phone. Get them on the phone's lucky if you can do that, get past the secretary. But if you can, you're not going to be able to rattle off everything you've got going on with your lawsuit you want to do, and you can't. You have to make an appointment to sit down and discuss this. And so I've taken that same approach. Was got a call comes in, hey, this is John, I got your name from Sally, and we want to sell or buy a house or build a house. And then they'll start going on. They'll start telling and they'll start their story. And I'll say, you know what, from my heart to yours, honestly, the best thing I can do to help you is sit down with you for 45 minutes. Let's come in the office. Let's sit down and see, where you're at, what your process is, and see if I can help you with your process.
Awesome.
And so that by itself is something very few agents will do that, because they can't. They're working from leads that came off internet, leads that came off of something. And if you say, hey, I want to sit down for 45 minutes, and all this person wants to do is go look at a house,
Mhm.
they'll just tell you, you say, I want to sit down for 45 minutes. They're going to well, forget it. I'll call somebody else. I don't know who you are anyway. I just want to go look at this house.
Exactly.
So that process of stopping this and working by the referral, there's trust. And then I can have a consultation. I can really find out what it is you're trying to accomplish and go through all the things you need to know and market conditions. And then I can get that trust from here to here. Once I get that trust high enough and they really believe in me, that I'm here for your best interest, then I can lead. If you want to buy a house, I've done it over 1,000+ times. I can help you go down that process, but you got to believe in me. If you don't trust me, I can't help you. So that's the consultation. That's how I've done it. Is be able to get off the street, get into this other arena, and then get these consultations and get really good at the consultation. And like I said, it's all about them. How many dogs you got? Got cats? What's their names? So you just got to get in to know your client. You get to know your client and you know what's going on in their life a little bit, and then they lay out what they're trying to accomplish. Then I can walk through that with them and see where we need to start, what needs to be done first, second, third, fourth. So that's how I've learned to control my life. And then there's one more piece to it. I think I'm unique in developing it. I know, I'm on a team here right now of, I don't know, there's 20-some people on my team, but most of them are young. And the last part of that consultation is to put a perspective with the client. And I think I don't know anybody. I really don't. I still to this day, I'm in, EXP Realty, and I've gone to conferences where there's 4,000 or 5,000 people there, and I still have had conversations, and nobody has this conversation that I have at the end of these consultations. When I do a consultation with a buyer or seller, I'm going to go through the process, like I said, and then I'm going to get the end of that, and I'm going to talk about why we don't want to work nights and weekends, why that is unwise to do that, and I'll make cases of there's different angles I'll take, but it's an obvious case to me. It's an obvious understanding that, hey, if you're going to work all day long and your energy's spent in the morning, you're up, you're awake, you're ready, you're effective, you're doing well, you're alert. And then when we get to the end of that whole long day, and then you're going to want to go do real estate where you're going to spend more money than you've probably spent in anything else in your life. I mean, this is usually one of the largest purchases most people make. And then the other factor to that is they don't make that every year. They'll make it every 7, 8, 9 years, 10 years. So in a lifespan, you may have 4 homes, 5 homes. Mm-hmm. And then you want to pack this in at the end of the day when everybody's tired. When I used to manage offices and my aides would make mistakes, and then they would upset people in the contract. I'd have to redo the or help with the contract potentially, just because they're doing offers on a large sum of money at 8, 9 o'clock at night, because that's when the public knows that's when you go do real estate, is after hours. So I'm saying it's unwise to do that. It's wiser for me to handle a large transaction. You wouldn't take $400,000, $500,000, $800,000 to your stockbroker on Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock or Thursday night at 7:30.
Yeah. Well, I love that. We call it in my world, we call it setting expectations. Realistic.
Yeah, that's exactly what no one wants to do, because if you're working off the street, you can't have this conversation. They're just going to tell you to take a hike. I'll get somebody else. But if you're working by referral, you have the opportunity to have this relationship start, and then you can be honest with them. You can say, look, it's not wise to do this in the evenings and weekends. And you always have to back it up. I only work by private recommendations. So if John's here and Sally recommended, I'm never going to let Sally down, ever. That's how I feed myself, my family, and everything I got going on. So if it comes down to it, I will work every single evening, every single weekend to get the job done for you. There's no way that I wouldn't. But that's not the first order of thinking. First order of thinking is that this is a large transaction. I don't do it very often, and it probably needs to take precedent during the day. Yeah. I mean, you'll take time off to go to the doctor, the dentist. How much do you spend with them?
Well, you're setting expectations, but you're also putting them in a position to think twice, and so that they can make the best decisions for themselves. Correct?
Yeah, they're sharper during the day, like I am sharper during the day. The whole rhythm of the earth, we all go to sleep at night. We all wake up with energy, and we use that energy throughout the day, and we get less effective as the day goes on. That's not the time to throw in the largest transaction, that sum of money that you're going to deal with.
Scott, if you could, share with our audience, what do you believe was some of the maybe biggest 1 or 2 things that help you become the expert that you are today?
I think you got to be curious about life. You got to be curious. Mm-hmm. I think you have to, I think there's a curiosity about people, about their story, where they came from, what made you where you are today. And that curiosity also says, when I look at a house, I think, how's that put together? How's that built? What are the pieces that go into that? There was one time before I got into architecture, I sold boat dealerships. I was flying around the country for a whole year. And so I was selling these luxury boats. They were deep V offshore, mostly on the large water or ocean. But I was curious about how the boat's put together, how it's made, and how does it function, and what's make it different from the other boats. I mean, why is this boat cooler or more expensive than this boat? So I think that curiosity piece, about life and about people and about things, and I think we're not here very long, right? We're here for a blink.
Yeah.
So try to absorb as much as you can get out of life, and that's why when I sit down with people, it's like, so you have dogs? Don't know why that. I'm curious about their whole package as to what is this, where you been, what are you trying to do? I'm going to come in and be a part of it. We're going to move down, and then I'm going to pull out, and then I'm going to check on you, throughout all the years, because that's how I work by referral. So I'm always checking on you. But yeah, I think being curious is one of the main things.
Okay. If you haven't mentioned it already, what is one thing that you would like people to know about you?
Don't know.
Other than you work by appointment.
You know that I care. I mean, that's something we'll come across when I get into the meetings. It's I'm not out trying to get a transaction at all. I'm out trying to build a relationship. I'm out trying to get a long-term relationship built with you, and I've dealt with all of my clients' kids, and they're just now turning the point where some of the kids are having kids. We're not quite old enough yet, but so I think you need to know that they care and they're curious about you, and you're not just a number. You're certainly not just a transaction at all. I don't know. I think that comes across though. Anyway, I feel good about that. But that's something I think that it's important to know that you're just not, you're not a number at all. You're another person that's interesting to me as to how'd you get here? What are you doing? So,
what is something you know now that you wish you'd known when you started in the business?
I think knowledge is key. I mean, success comes from just really knowing what you're doing, and then having that creates confidence. And then people like working with people that are confident and they know how to go down a path. It reminds me, I ran track in high school. I ended up getting 5 full ride scholarships to college, and I remember people would say, I would win a lot back in the day. And people would say, are you going to, when you get on the line I never ran a 100-meter dash, 100-meter, 200-meter. And when I run those races, I never got on the line and thought, I want to win this. I never did. I always think I need to come out of the blocks at the right angle with the right, don't waste motion, and get all this thing to get up and get into my chairs, they call it, and then just don't waste any motion and just completely focus on the mechanics of the job. And then once I got the mechanics really, well done, then it resulted in winning quite a bit, which led to scholarships and all that. So same thing with this. You come into this business, and I think if you can pick up knowledge and don't just blow it off, learn what you need to learn in this business, and the details of, we sell homes, so you should know how they're put together, how they're made, how you pull them apart, how you put them back together, what the problems are, what the problems shouldn't be. And so that knowledge will help you grow, and sales will come, and people will come to you, and they'll like what you've done for them, and they'll tell somebody else, and you can go foster that piece. So I wish I would have learned to work by referral a lot earlier, much earlier in my career than I did. I let the street still keep taking me away, and I would catch on to that right off the bat. Okay. I would build a database and really go deep on my database and really work on my database right up front. So,
do you think, from your experience and what you've seen, that the real estate associations do enough training and educations on subjects that are related to estate and or property transfer planning, that type of thing?
I think the state, local levels that we have here do an excellent job of engaging agents and having classes for many, many things. They're excellent, if you ask me. They're a 10 out of 10, I think. But you're right on transferring. That usually, what that transfer piece comes from is title companies. Mm-hmm. And title companies, I just had a conversation this morning with a colleague that has an unusual, I actually have one right now, an estate situation that's not an estate. Should be an estate, but it's not. So that educational piece you rely on to the title companies that have to transfer title here at the closing eventually. And they're the ones that really educate you on what that piece looks like and how that has to happen given certain circumstances. Okay. So I don't think there's a lot of classes on that, but I think you get that when you get into an actual transaction. Okay. So from titles. Now title companies are excellent around here too. They're really good.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Title companies are very good here in Fort Wayne too. I don't think we have any bad title companies. They're all, you can rely on almost all of them. So
Is there something, Scott, that you normally would share with each and every one of your clients?
the story I just told you about not working nights and weekends, making that case, that's everybody gets that same talk.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
important.
That's something.
That's the only way you can control your life. I mean, when you don't have to get any more complicated about it at all. It's just flat out not working nights and weekends. You're going to work some of them. It's going to happen. I don't say you don't work any, but you're going to, yeah, it's important for everybody that you're working with to know that why was it not make sense? How do we want to work and what's going to make sense? There's all kinds of pieces I talk about. This phone, I don't carry my phone with me. I mean, I do, but my phone is available for me to use as a tool, period. It's always off. I learned a long time. I've had three different coaches that I've hired over the years, and they get on your case. And I had some pretty big coaches that were pretty good money. They get you straightened out pretty fast on priorities, life, what's important, what's not, where do you spend your time, what your calendar needs to look like, what doesn't need to look like. And that phone is one of those things that just keeps going like this all day, every day. Yeah. Most in my industry, people live by the phone. That's an incoming call off the street that could be thousands of dollars. So I'm going to excuse me just a minute. I need to make a call, or I need to take this call. That is something that I've gotten in control of a long time ago. I do not let that happen to my life. And so therefore you have to coach each client at the consultation about how I handle communications. And it's not me, but it's also you. What's the best way you communicate? What's the best way I communicate? We got the email, text messages, and phone calls. How do we want to intermix those? And then I explain how I work that. When I'm with a human being, I'm with a human being.
Yeah, I get you.
My phone's not on me. It's in my car. It's in my office. I will never, the little bit of time I got on earth, a little bit of time I got with you is going to be with you. That's why you can't call me up and just start rattling off. I mean, like, we need to sit down so I can devote time to you. And when I can devote time to you, then I can give you my full attention, and we can actually try to solve some problems a lot faster than trying to intermix it with interruptions constantly, which is what most agents do. Yeah. So it's another reason to get off the street and get into private recommendations, get these consultations going, get good at these consultations, and laying all the things out so that you can have a really excellent transaction.
Yeah, that's an excellent habit and a great recommendation as well, obviously. So, what is a mistake, Scott, that you see many people make that's hard to undo as it relates to your real estate business?
And it's reacting to everything that comes in. That's the biggest mistake. You give up your health, you give up your family, you give up a lot when you react. You live a reactionary life. You live a life of scarcity versus abundance mentality. It changes the world. I mean, scarcity says it's a dog-eat-dog world, and I've got to get my piece of the pie, so I got to react to everything that happens. And the business of real estate is a reactionary business.
Yeah.
If you don't challenge it, you don't do what I've discovered and talked about, you're going to react to everything that happens as it happens, and your life is constantly being pulled from being around for 3 decades and then managing lots of people and having my own experiences. That's what you see. And you see people accepting that. They just accept. The spouses say, well, that's the job we're in. That's the business. That's the industry we're in. You got to let them go all the time. They got to run. So that's the mistake. The mistake is to react to everything as opposed to respond to things.
Excellent advice.
Yeah. Again, there's a methodology of how to warp from one world to the other world, and it's not overnight. That's why it's hard. That's why most people don't want to do it. You can't get agents to do this because they don't want to take the time. And what's behind that is your industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's behind that is money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need every check. Mm-hmm. Every time I get an opportunity to get a check, I'm going to chase that check down. Or I'm going to chase down those rocks, overturn them, and see which ones I can make happen. That is what drives this behind the system of staying in the scarcity mentality. Because if you can't control money, if you're not good at controlling money when it flows to you, then it all goes together. You're going to chase your whole life because you need the money. So until you can control your clients, then control the money, learn how to lay that money out and put backup money and put in reserve money out to different areas so that you get big checks in this business. And I've gotten $21,000, $22,000 checks, $18,000, $19,000 checks. And if you put that in one account, you think, awesome, that's a lot of money. So we learned to take that and chop it up into all kinds of little parts and pieces, and there is no money. It's laid out across the different accounts, and it's put into different pieces and going to work in different areas. So we don't ever have that money. That money's there, but it's working right now. It's going to put it to work. So,
Scott, how do you define success?
excellent question. So there's lots of different definitions, and I certainly don't do it by production. And maybe it's because I've never been a big producer. I've never been a gigantic producer. I've never been up in those big. I mean, I've done some good numbers and made some good. I still make a good living, but I think success. One of my liked is to design your life. What do you want? What do you want your life to look like with your family, with your health? With even things that you want, physical things you want, houses, cars, all the stuff that you put into life. What do you want? What do you want to look like? What would make you feel good? And some of them are going to be material things. There's no doubt about that. And then try to pursue that. Lay out what you think was what you want to see your life be like, and then go make that happen over years. Create that, and get to the point where you can look at it and say, "I've created this. It feels good to me. It feels comfortable with me. Everything was working." So, and that's health. I've been working out for a long time, and it's habit. I don't even think. It's much more difficult to get up in the middle of the day, stop your day, go to the gym, change clothes, go put yourself a routine that doesn't feel good sometimes, and then get your clothes back on, get showered, and come back to work. That is more difficult. It's easier just to keep working. It's a lot easier to do that. So those habits of discipline to make a good life happen, it's you have to design it, you have to go after it, you got to schedule it, and you got to go do it, make it. So I think success is pursuing something that you've designed your life to be, and then you find yourself coming to material. It's materializing. I've had a lot of goals that I've materialized. I mean, I've been told you set your sights on something and you start thinking about it, and what you think about comes to fruition if you want it bad enough. And so yeah, design a good life is something that makes you happy, makes you good. There's no specifics to that, but I think it's for every each individual. And I don't like in my industry, which I don't care for, is certainly that's production and it's money.
Yeah.
And that's true in society, isn't it? I mean, most of society, I think, thinks wealthy people are successful, and and some of them are. I would never take it away. Absolutely, there's some people that have got the whole world going on, all the different pieces to it, all the different functions of life. Many of them, though, find themselves just having success in the business world and in the money world. And when you come into family, health, and other pieces of life, they oftentimes don't make it. Some people do, and some people don't. So
what I've found, and I have to agree with you 110%, is if you focus on the money, you're going to have problems with money. If you
correct.
focus on what your passion is and helping people obtain what they want, the money's going to be there, and you're going to be much happier focusing on that.
It's a byproduct of helping. Yeah, I mean, same when I raced, I never thought about I did the work. Same in this career, do the work, money will come. Yeah. And then I think you never know how to control it. A lot of people make money, they don't know how to control the money at all, and then it gets to be very difficult. I used to be one of those. I would admit I was one of those people that make money, and I don't know where it all went. Where did it all go? And so I laid my pride down years ago and said, I need help with this because I don't know where the stuff's going. So now I know where every penny goes. So
we're going to start winding this down. But is there anything you wish to share with our audience that we haven't talked about already?
No, I just wish that real estate brokers would take the time to really to learn. If everybody had their own database and they learned to work that database, everyone did, you wouldn't have as much competition fighting for people. You wouldn't be out there working in open houses on Sundays. Who came up with this idea of we work 5 days and we take 2 off? Mm-hmm. Somebody in the United States or somewhere along the line thought that was a good idea. Why? So you can rest. Mm-hmm. And realtors don't rest. They do weeks and months and years and decades of just running. So, I wish this real estate community would come together and say, look, let's really work on our database. Let's get the living coming from that. It's a better, higher quality living. It's more respectful. I wish they would. I wish people take the time to follow what we teach. We teach it here at our group. And the EXP umbrella I'm under is just an awesome, I think it's the best one out there for financial advantages. We're all owners of the company. I have stock in this company. We all get stock in this company. And there's other options here, the financial, that you cannot get anywhere else. It's a cloud-based company, and it is, you can't compete with it. I don't think you can. And I'll say that openly out to the market. You cannot compete with EXP's financial structure. So
and one of the things And one of the things I asked you earlier was, what's been the biggest challenge you faced? And that was kind of early on and through your career, obviously. But given what success you've achieved, what is now your biggest challenge?
For me, it's just capping off my retirement. And I'm not going to retire. I don't look at retirement as retirement. I look at it as chapter 2. What's my chapter 2 look like? Chapter 1 was my real estate career. That was really cool. That was a really good ride. It was fun, and I learned to control it and got it in control, and my life was really, really well put together. So what's chapter 2 look like?
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle of been for 4 or 5 years, mentally going through it, financially going through it, and just trying to build this next chapter, preparing mentally, preparing financially. That's my next big challenge. That's what I've been working and phasing into for a while. But that's what's in front of me right now. Is I got my health in order, I got my family in order, I've got a lot of things in order. My business is awesome. It's in control. It's a beautiful business. So what's chapter 2 look like for me? And that's what my wife and I have been working on and the pieces of that. So that's my biggest challenge, is putting together this next chapter, which I'm super excited about.
I love that, because I feel the same way. I can't golf enough,
No, yeah.
and
I love golf, but that's just one little piece.
that much.
Yeah.
And so what am I going to do with all my time?
Yeah.
And I have a passion for it, and I reward my clients and aspiring clients, and I encourage them to look at the Bible and try and find the word retirement in it.
Yeah. That doesn't exist in there. Yeah, I agree. And so we're not supposed to retire. We're just supposed to go out and help other people do other things and volunteer for things and get involved in things that you're interested in and just push the envelope and keep going. And the world's a big place. There's lots of things to see and do. It's not that we've say, hey, I think I'm going to go do this. I'm going to volunteer for this. I want to be a part of you. Let me try it. That'll be fun. So again, it's that curiosity, right? It's that curiosity about life that will feed you in and keep you going. So we drive back and forth. We have a place in Florida. We drive back and forth. We fly. But in the winter, I've been staying there for some months, and I can still make my calls and keep my whole business rolling. I got boots on the ground here. But we drive down there, and I'm always seeing these billboards for cave exploring or whatever. And I said, honey, next year when we go down there, let's take 2 weeks to drive down there, and let's go to these places. I keep seeing these signs. And so it's that curiosity to look at all the little things along the way, the 800-mile trip. I could spend, a day here, a day there. So
never a destination. It's always a journey, right?
Yeah, and then, exactly. We get down to Florida, and then we take the car and go out, explore around Florida, and start driving around looking for new things to see and do. And I had no idea that was there. Look at that. So yeah, life's a big place.
Yeah, Scott, I really enjoyed having you on. It's been a great discussion. I really had a good time. And obviously your contact information is at the bottom of the screen.
Sure.
But would you like to give our audience, a little more information on how they can contact you and find out more?
Sure.
About
Yeah. I mean, my clients text me. I mean, so I use texting as I don't have a lot of text. Only people who text me are people that want my attention, and I coach that whole thing up through the consultations. So my phone number is 260-705-6500, 705-6500 with a 260 area code. So yeah, if you put my name in, Scott Malcolm, and you text me, I would love to talk to any agent that wants to learn how to control their life, how to get their life in order, their financial piece, as well as their business, and then get your life back. That's what the mission here is to help and show realtors how to live a better life. It's one of the mission statements that we produced here. And I do it under the NXP umbrella. And so, yeah, that would be the main contact for me. And my email, it's always an option, is Scott Malcolm EXP. So at gmail.com. The phone number is my number one. So
Scott, I want to thank you so much for being on. Like, as I mentioned, it's really good having you on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm Terry DuPont. This is Better Business, Better Life, building on your success. And don't forget, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And so join us next week on another episode of Better Business, Better Life. And it was good seeing you.
Thanks, Terry.
Now, Scott, I'm going to turn off the recording.
This has been the Better Business, Better Life, Building on Your Success podcast. If you have questions about creating tax-free wealth and income, forward-looking tax mitigation, strategic risk mitigation, wealth preservation and legacy planning, and advanced financial management, go to DuPontAdvisory.com or email Terry@DuPontAdvisory.com.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.